Hello, my name is Jan Mattes. I'm Chief Product Manager of SAP Business ByDesign Cloud ERP, and I'm now going to give you an overview where ByDesign is standing today and where we are aiming at. So as a customer, of course, you want to see how the future will evolve of ByDesign and how you can contribute. But let me first shed light a bit, where do we stand as of today? So ByDesign has been growing significantly in the last year. We now have more than 7,000 companies using ByDesign productively. It's a growth of 30% year over year. So we grow really significantly. But the most impressive number is probably also how our existing customers use ByDesign. So they have more than 700 million financial documents in all their ByDesign system, which is a growth of 41%. That is basically a proof point that existing customers grow with ByDesign significantly. And if you want to get an indication and a sign how the future of ByDesign is looking like, you can look on one interesting KPI, which is the number of learners. We had in all of our Open SAP courses since ever more than 100,000 learners which subscribe and then follow a course, which usually takes something like a week. Just for the 4 new courses that we've been launching in the last 6 months of 2019, we had 20,000. So you see with that number that there is a huge wave of people which are highly interested to learn and to invest time into ByDesign. It is partners, but also customers which want to understand analytics, which want to understand ByDesign project management, financials, CRM, SCM, and also how to develop applications in Cloud Application Studio. So we had a very, very healthy year 2019. And what is basically the driver behind that success? What makes us successful is our customers, you basically making us successful. And if you want to categorize the customers that we have, then we have the larger ones and the rather smaller ones. The larger ones are some customers like PostNL, the Dutch Post, Lloyd's Register, a very old company, and Hilti, which is famous for their drilling machines. And those big customers mainly grew by extending what they have. They extend their solution into new markets, but also they extend the usage. Basically, a good example is here, Hilti. They just recently decided to go more into the ByDesign embedded CRM because it fits to their purpose and to their processes very, very well. And they can do this in the very same system. No need for any kind of integration of Salesforce automation or something like that. It's part of the system. And that was basically the reason why Hilti chose to invest into that. And in terms of scaling and growing, basically, PostNL and Lloyd's Register are very good examples. PostNL has more than 100 million business documents just in one tenant, and Lloyd's Register basically has 8,000 users in 84 countries, and again, all in one tenant. The other extreme somehow or example is basically the smaller customers like Heliotron, Aspen Pumps, or Click and Grow, which basically grow by innovation. So they are very flexible, they are very innovative and bring new ideas into different markets. And Click and Grow is a very good example. They invented something like the Nespresso for in-house gardening. And basically they use ByDesign to reflect their current business, but also to understand the potential and the future of their business. They use ByDesign for ideation to understand what the KPIs are saying and how they interrelate and what they can learn and how they can innovate better from that. So in a nutshell, you could say the big ones as well as the small ones, they want to do more but with less efforts, more in one system, more with less time for the people to train, because they all use the very same system in one integrated solution. So what has been the investment in 2019? And probably you're not surprised that I talk now a bit about our mobile investments, which is basically a couple of very useful smartphone applications. But most interestingly, you can use those smartphone applications to extend them, to build your own ones. And it is very, very easy to use that, to build your own mobile applications by using our Cloud Application Studio, as you don't need to start from scratch. You just model your floor plans, your UIs, your user interfaces, similar to what you can do in the desktop, but you deploy them as part of the One ByDesign mobile app. And there is no need to upload your apps, let's say, into iTunes, iTunes Store, or Google Play Store. It's all there already by just building and setting it up and modeling the application in Cloud Application Studio, and then simply making it available and assigning it to the users, and then they can use it on the smartphone. I think it's probably not needful now to tell you more about our embedded analytics. You heard a lot of that in 2019, and you also see a demo in a few minutes. But it is very obvious that analytics is the key for intelligent enterprise and for intelligent automation of your processes. You first of all understand the patterns, and then from that you can then derive intelligent automation. And again, you will see that in a quick demo I've been preparing for you. The openness is an integral part of an ERP solution. There is no such thing than an ERP which is isolated and not connected to other solutions. Very good examples from my point of view are the ByDesign Commerce add-on, which our partner Esenta delivers. It's an all-included solution where you simply subscribe the contract, and then you get everything from the screen design to the implementation and to the operation of your web shop, and it's pre-integrated. So that's basically a big value add. You don't need to care for anything, you just care for your business and not for hosting your web shop and running your web shop anymore. Subscription billing, SAP subscription billing is another example where we build pre-integrated iFlows, integration flows to SAP subscription billing. You can use them out of the box. So you sign for subscription billing, you use that solution, and you use those integrated integration flows out of the box with zero coding if you want to use them. And if they are not sufficient, then of course you can extend them. And all of this is also, all the interfaces are also available again as sample codes, as we have it also for the mobile. You can download those sample codes and then use it for learning, or just use it for your own scenarios. I mentioned already our significant invest into online training. Online training in ByDesign is free, and these are just the 4 new courses we delivered in the second half of 2019. And as mentioned, we had in just a half a year more than 20,000 learners joining. And last but not least, compliancy is always a key topic for a ERP solution. Some people say it is choking a bit of innovation because it eats up a lot of the capacity that ByDesign development has. We need to deliver on IFRS, we need to deliver on data privacy laws, because this is something like the basis for running an ERP solution. But I have basically a different perspective. I think that need for regulations, and those regulations basically fuel our innovation. And I will shed light a bit more on that. So 2 examples here, just at a glance, is the big data lifecycle management we introduced for data privacy management for GDPR. It is basically the fuel for your artificial intelligence. I will explain later how that works in detail. And secondly, the lease accounting, the management of lease contracts, which have been introduced due to IFRS 16. I think those are very good examples how such regulations allow us to put focus on some areas, and also to go then the last mile, which is then to provide important innovations. Let me shed light here especially on the big data lifecycle we invented for GDPR and data privacy laws. What we did here is basically that we analyze and index all business data, all documents, and also the master data that we have in the ERP system. And with that, we provide them like a map to the data. And with that map, you also get the best before use date. So you can easily now differentiate what data is hot, what is warm, and what is cold, and what you should rather not use for automation, or what is warm for and good for automation, and what is very recent and very new. And this is basically very important, as it is the key to legally compliant automation, but it also opens the space for going the next step. It provides also the context of your business document. So you now see for the first time the relation between sales orders, outbound deliveries, and invoices and returns. And you can use that as a graph and see that as a graph, and also then consume that in your machine learning models. And why is that so significant? Well, first of all, pattern recognition is there since the early 90s. So this is basically nothing new. But always there was a big problem with it associated. If you don't have context, then probably your pattern recognition and your image recognition might be coming to a wrong result. As you see here, the context basically is what you need to take right automation steps and to take right decisions here. And that context basically makes the difference. And in our case, in the ERP world, the context is basically coming from the relationship of the business documents you have. So if you have, let's say, a sales order, it's a completely different thing if it's a very young sales order as part of a customer project, or if it's a running customer project, or if it's a sales order which is running into a logistics execution process. So the patterns are extremely different, and the conclusions you might take out of the three variants should be definitely different. So this is basically the clue behind that context, and you get that as a collateral from our data lifecycle management. So in fact, the fuel for your artificial intelligence is now the insight, the lifecycle status, and the context you can derive for free out of your most valuable data source, which is your Business ByDesign Cloud ERP system. So you might now say that SAP is a bit exaggerating the intelligent enterprise story. And if you read here, some people say the biggest challenge today is artificial intelligence and natural stupidity. I would rather phrase it different. Natural leverage natural intelligence. That's basically what we need to bring together. So artificial intelligence and natural intelligence is basically what we need to bring together, where we need to make insight actionable. And we have basically developed in 2019 a couple of very tangible examples how you can fuel your natural intelligence, and that's the monitor for sales discounts that we delivered for invoices, sales quotes, orders, and contracts. It basically allows you as a business owner to give more freedom to your sales representatives to give discounts, but at the same time to have a strong regime if the discounts go or endanger your bottom line. And that kind of freedom basically opens space and freedom, but also allows you a good level of control, because you see that at a glance on your smartphone, or when you first every morning log in into your ByDesign system. And from there, you can drill down also into detail. So that is a very good example how natural intelligence uses information and aggregates information you find in the system. And how we combine that, basically what the user can do in the user interface, in the ByDesign system on the smartphone or on the desktop, and how we combine it with making it available to external solution. That is basically the secret sauce where natural intelligence and artificial intelligence come together, because there on the right hand side you can then use that also for your automation and build your own variations of those analytical views which ByDesign provides out of the box. So where are we aiming at, and how can you as a customer contribute? So first of all, our ByDesign Roadmap is now something like we published it end of last year, and it's somehow unchanged. So the general directions are still the same. We've been listening to you. Providing you embedded analytics and best of breed embedded analytics is the key for you to become the most intelligent enterprise. You asked us to expand the openness and at the same time also expand cross-industry capabilities, because they are most value adding in many industries. And at the same time, we also need to take care that your system stays compliant and you are meeting all the legal requirements, and that your technical platform is also still up to date. And here you might say, we don't want technical foundation to be maintained. We just want industry scenarios to be invested in. Yes, we understand you, but at the same time, we have to keep our promise to keep your system up and running. And I have here a very good example. In 1911, we basically invested a bit of time into our new email infrastructure, which basically was brought to a level where the ratio of spam emails and the classification of emails which are sent out from ByDesign to your customers' inboxes is optimized by using DKIM and SPM as the mean to control that you really can ensure that emails are really sent from you and that those are not spam. So DKIM and SPF out of the box support basically are for you the key that your business emails in the future also reach the inboxes of your customers and partners. This is something we need to take care for you. You wouldn't basically ask us to invest into that. That's what we need to do on our own, and you can then benefit from that. But let me give you now an example how the natural intelligence can be used directly in a ByDesign system. I have here basically a prototype for you, which we developed in Cloud Application Studio, and which basically allows you to have a tight regime on your receivables, so the open invoices that your customers aren't paying, and the payables amount, so the invoices you have to pay to your suppliers. So on the right-hand side, you see basically all your open supplier invoices you need to pay. It's your credit line. So you might ignore that for a while. More interesting might hear the figure with the number of open invoices and the volume of your open invoices. You see there are a couple of customers which really have a high amount of open invoices. And if I drill into that, then I can see the KPI as a fully depicted chart, and I can also expand here. And if I see that, let's say, Silver Star, second bubble here, has also a credit memo, that probably is an indication that something went wrong, and probably we don't want to take action on that and wait a bit. But here for that customer, Williams & Son, it's just the amount of open invoices which is simply too big, and you want to take action here. And you can actually, by using our Cloud Application Studio, you basically can develop actions which can be embedded in such reports to take action right away. So what I built here basically is I have here the actions menu, the execute actions menu, and based on the very harsh and high number, I can now decide to, let's say, set the ABC classification of that customer to Z, and that would basically mean that customer would get less good prices and would influence his prices. If you want to have a more tight action and a more critical action, then you can also embed that here. A very good example would here to do a blocking of orders, and that is also possible. So you can say, okay, that customer will not be able to create new orders. So because this is a problem customer, for instance, you do that, and with that, it is not possible anymore to create new orders anymore. And also, of course, you can now set here a delivery block and say, and the pending orders which the customer did not yet pay, we also don't deliver anymore. So you see here the credit line, the credit limit for that customer is simply too high. We say, no, we're not going to deliver any orders to that customer unless he pays his invoices. So that kind of actions can be developed with our Cloud Application Studio. As soon you have them, you can go here in the Business Analytics Work Centers, and then there you find the Analytical Actions view. And there you find all analytical actions. And here, for instance, you find the block order action, which I have embedded. And here in that case, I have embedded it in the aging list for receivables. So I just simply put the input parameters, did a couple of technical keys, and then with that, that report is enabled to directly take actions. So in the future, we want to make this even more convenient, but you get the notion how you can use your analytics to directly go from insight to action. So much for the demo. You know the ByDesign roadmap. It's available since end of last year. Here is the link. There you can find the latest version. And we are currently on our way to publish a new roadmap. So stay tuned. Very soon, using that URL, you'll find then a new version of the roadmap. Currently, that roadmap is going to 2102. So the February release of next year is already planned. But expect a new version of the roadmap to be published very, very soon. So how can you now influence the product direction? This is basically a depiction of all the customer influence requests that by the number of votes that we have delivered in 2019, it's 780 in total. You see 170 votes from the CRM area for customer influence requests in the CRM area. Then we have the supply chain management and so on. So all areas somehow covered. And what is basically the driver behind that? First of all, it's important to understand we have here a huge number of customer influence requests. So you propose lots of good ideas, and all of them are basically voted by you and by other partners and customers. And that is basically for us then the driver to decide what comes into the roadmap and what not. So I hope you don't mind that probably your influence request has not been delivered so far. And if you look on the number of votes, when it's something like 20 or even 30, it is not so unlikely that we cannot deliver on that because we have more highly requested vote. And of course, we also need to balance the efforts for delivering that. So this is basically what drives us and what takes a lot of time to decide. And what I can tell you is that the ByDesign customer influence community is one of the most active and vital at SAP overall. So you see the number of authors that we have, almost 300, and almost 800 votes in the last year. 800 customer influence requests in the last year only. So this is really significant. And the ByDesign development team is one of the top teams at SAP to deliver on those customer influence requests. So how do we do that basically? This is now here my personal view of the customer influence. You see I'm coach 165 customer influence requests. And what I do is basically I receive new influence requests, I rate them, I acknowledge them, and then I usually wait for you to vote. And that is basically the sad part of the story. Many of the influence requests don't get enough votes to be considered. That's sad, but that's the rule of the engagement. And well, we want to really focus on the highly voted and the most impactful. And that's basically why we sometimes also take a couple of those influence requests and bundle them, as I did it here for customer analytics. I had a couple of influence requests which all somehow related to each other. They were not exactly the same, but in total they made more than 100 votes. And that's why we decided then to make a customer engagement where we invite a couple of partners and customers to come together to a couple of virtual sessions where we discuss the priority and the ranking and the details of those customer influence requests. And then after a couple of sessions, we started delivering. Unfortunately, that takes a bit of time because also we need to accommodate the time frames of our partners and customers, and we get feedback, and then we need to propose something, and that takes a bit of time. But with 1902, we started for that customer influence delivering, starting with a silent migration where you didn't see anything. Probably many of the customers have been disappointed, saying, "Wait, what's happening?" But we have been working already. We can't talk about that. That's the problem. But we've been working, and then since 1905, we've been delivering consistently on those what we agreed with those customers and partners, and that went until 2002 release, where we finally delivered also the absolute percentage discount on header in all sales documents. So that is a good example, and hopefully makes you understand and lets you understand a bit that not every customer influence will be delivered, and sometimes it also takes a time to deliver on those customer influence requests because we also want to do it right and to deliver the right things. So in a nutshell, ByDesign is the best solution in the cloud, the best ERP, if you want to have as less systems as possible and if you want to be ready for a quickly growing enterprise. So you can scale from 7 to 8,000 users easily, and you can use this as your core platform for ideation, planning, purchasing, producing, storing and executing and delivering and project management all in one solution with no breaks in between, a seamless embedded system. That's why ByDesign is so significant and so successful. And if you compare this basically by running your own IT infrastructure, then a factor should be also considered in the ByDesign data centers, the SAP data centers, run since 2014 already with zero greenhouse gas. And our target, our ambition as SAP is to reduce our carbon footprint basically until 2025 as even more significant. So you see, we do not only take care for you as a customer, but really we take care for the global economy, and we want to be the best solution in the world, which have the best footprint also in terms of greenhouse gas. So I hope you liked what you've seen, and that you stay tuned and enjoy using your ByDesign system. Take care and see you soon. Bye.